Hi, everybody. Welcome to English Digest. I'm Tom.
Hi, I'm Stephanie.
It's our Discovery Unit for today. Maybe some of you out there still watch TV from time to time instead of swiping your smartphone all day long.
No.
There are some interesting TV shows on TV still. It's worth watching. And it's probably better for your eyesight so you can actually look up at something as opposed to looking down in your hand. But on the Discovery Channel, we've got a program called Food Safari Fire, which is the name of the show on TLC, actually. Playing with fire, that's what you hear from your parents. Don't play with fire. Kids get curious, they start playing with dad's cigarette lighter or something.
We also use that phrase, Tom, to talk about warning somebody, hey, you're playing with fire. If you keep doing that, you're going to get hurt. It's not literal. It's just figurative. Maybe you're dating a guy who's kind of dangerous. Yeah, well, honey, you're playing with fire. You're going to get hurt. So it's a very popular phrase that way. Why don't we get started? We're going to read through day 1 and see what these folks are doing on this show called Food Safari Fire, and then we'll be back to break it down. Writer Leigh Hunt once described fire as the most tangible of all visible mysteries. While fire is much less of a mystery to us nowadays, its value to the human race cannot be discounted. In fact, evidence of the controlled use of fire by our ancestor, Homo erectus, dates back around 400,000 years, and our command of it has had significant physical, cultural, and geographical impacts. Fire has done more than just change the locations we've inhabited and the ways in which we've socialized, however. It ensured the very survival of our species. Early humans used fire to cook meat, which killed harmful bacteria that would have made them ill. It also made starchy plants, such as potatoes and corn, edible. Furthermore, fire allowed humans to dry and store food so it could be consumed at times when hunting and gathering wasn't feasible. Throughout history, new technologies have refined our cooking techniques and provided us with various methods of food preparation. TLC's new show, Food Safari Fire, is an exploration of this food revolution. Its host, Maeve O'Meara, joins some of Australia's premier chefs to learn how they concoct amazing modern dishes with our most primitive cooking resources. Maeve's first stop is Hobart, the capital of Tasmania. She's meeting up with Rodney Dunn, the owner of the Agrarian Kitchen, a popular cooking school. Rodney shows Maeve how to use just 2 metal stakes and some wire to roast pork, which has been rubbed in herbs, spices, and lemon rind, over the coals of a large fire. He then wraps some root vegetables in damp calico and buries them beneath the coals. They're steamed to perfection when he removes them several hours later. Topped with aioli, this meal is a feast fit for royalty.
Okay, everybody, let's talk about our unit for today. Our Discovery Unit, and Playing with Fire on TLC is the title. It's a program all about fire. And let's talk about this writer, Leigh Hunt. He once described fire as the most tangible of all visible mysteries. Leigh Hunt was a poet and a writer. He didn't really publish anything really famous, but he was still famous as a critic and stuff like that in England during the early 1800s. And, he wrote about fire once, and he described it as the most tangible of all visible mysteries. We've got a lot of visible mysteries out there, things we don't quite understand. But if something's tangible, that means you can actually touch it, or at least it's easily understood.
True enough. Now, while fire is much less of a mystery to us nowadays, because we have it all around us, we see it, we can make it, its value to the human race cannot be discounted. If you discount something, guys, you consider it unworthy of your time. You don't think it's important enough to even consider, to think about. We use discount, though, also to talk about products that you can buy, that you can purchase. Sometimes they'll be discounted. If they're discounted, and that's a passive structure to be discounted, it means the store has reduced the price and you can get it at a lower price and it's a good deal, discount. But here it just means you don't really consider it worthy of your thoughts and time. It's just not important enough. But that's not true. Fire's value is huge to the human race.
Yes, it can't be discounted. Of course, we have to recognize its importance. In fact, evidence of the controlled use of fire by our ancestor Homo erectus dates back around 400,000 years. And our command of it has had significant physical, cultural, and geographical impacts. So, in fact, we've got evidence of fire being controlled or having controlled use. For example, building a campfire or something like that to cook food. That's controlled use, where sometimes fire is out of control because of a lightning strike or a house fire or something like that. But we've got evidence of controlled fires by Homo erectus, one of our ancestors. In evolution, of course, ancestors could refer to people in your family line that lived before you, your great-great-grandparents, for example. But in evolution, your ancestors are going back to Homo erectus or other kinds of early humans. And this goes back 400,000 years. My goodness, I didn't think it was possible for anything to be that old. But I guess they found archaeological sites where there were signs of fires or something used to cook food or something. So, in other words, we've had fire for a long time. Here, command means control of something, especially if you're an expert. And physical, cultural, and geographical impacts. Fire, of course, has had this great influence on our lives in many, many different ways.
Yeah, and they're talking about the ways that it's had an impact physically, culturally, and geographically. And notice I turned those words into adverbs there, right? Physically, it affects us physically, culturally, and geographically. And it does. Fire is huge. Think what we would do without fire, what our lives would be like. Fire has done more than just change the locations we've inhabited and the ways in which we've socialized, however. Fire has affected where we live. Think about that. If you live somewhere, you're inhabiting that area. Although inhabit is usually used in a more formal way. And if you socialize with someone, you're getting together with people. Maybe you're having a party. Maybe you're going to dinner together. But when you're interacting socially, you're getting together with just people and talking and laughing and doing things that are fun. We're going to have a social gathering. You would know that you would get together with other people, and it's probably a party, something where there's music and just lots of laughter.
And when you go to that social gathering, you are going to socialize. That's the verb. You're going to chat with people, exchange information. That's important. And it ensured the very survival of our species. We could not have cooked our food. We could not have kept our homes warm. We could not have destroyed our enemies without fire. To ensure just means to make sure that something happens, to make certain that something is the case. And this is the survival of our species, which of course are human beings, or Homo sapiens as we are called according to science. Now, early humans used fire to do various things, such as cook meat, which killed harmful bacteria that would have made them ill. Indeed, it is advised if you're going to cook meat, you should, if you're going to eat meat, if you're going to eat meat, if you're going to consume meat, then you should cook it. Some people might say, oh, no, we like to eat raw meat, but most people prefer it cooked because it does kill this harmful bacteria. Bacteria, of course, is some kind of, some kind of germ or something?
Some kind of germ. It's a living organism, but I refer to them as germs. People here have told me, you can't sit underneath a fan or the air conditioning, you'll get a cold. And I'll say, no, germs give us colds, not fans and air conditioning. So these are little organisms that are tiny, and some don't hurt you and some do. So it's good that we use fire or heat to cook meat. I've watched a lot of cooking shows, and I was just thinking, Tom, as you were talking, what meat or fish is eaten raw? Pork you have to cook, and chicken you must cook to a certain temperature, or it can get you sick. But beef, they eat raw. And lamb, raw. Fish, a lot of the fish they eat raw as well. I like cooked things particularly. I don't even like sushi and sashimi. I don't like raw fish. No.
Okay, well, that is, a type of meat that is not cooked. But most of the times we do cook our meat, and that kills the bacteria.
Yes.
If you don't kill the bacteria, then you might get sick. And it's kind of surprising that, hey, people didn't even know what bacteria was just a couple of hundred years ago.
They didn't know.
Pretty weird, yeah.
Even in the 1800s, they were wondering why when they did operations or help people with medical problems. We didn't have great medicine then. Why were they dying? It was due to the bacteria that would get into those wounds. Now, when you talk about starchy plants, you're talking about some of the best tasting vegetables on the planet Earth. Potatoes and corn. Love those things. But they sure taste a lot better now that we have fire. Now we can make mashed potatoes and we can cook that corn. I've eaten raw corn. It's okay. But I like it cooked a little more.
Starch, of course, is dianfen, I believe, in Chinese, and it's a kind of carbohydrate and turns into a sugar or something like that. I wish I knew more about it, but in any case, you can't really eat potatoes or corn raw, although you have
I've had raw corn,
but,
sure, but raw potatoes, no.
Yeah, it's weird.
Notice this word edible. I remember when I was a kid and I learned this word, I thought, well, why don't we just say eatable? Why do we need this stupid word? It doesn't look like eat. But that's what that stupid word means. It means it's possible to eat that thing. There is no word eatable. So you need to learn edible, and then you'll be all set. But
well, it's
English.
from the Latin word to eat, so it's... It has that form. But in any case, yes, with fire, we could cook those things and we could eat our potatoes and our corn. And we'll talk about some more things that have made our lives better having to do with fire in just a couple of seconds. But we're going to take a break right now and listen to our Chinese teacher.
Hi everyone, my name is Jenny. 今天我们看的是第11单元。好，那今天的节目其实要讲的是一个 TLC 上的新节目，我们看看它很有趣哦，它跟煮的东西有关系，还跟火有关系。火它都提到了，其实今天对我们来说，火已经不是一件神秘的东西了。这边这句话 While fire is much less of a mystery to us， 我们先看这里 much less字面上就是少多了，那当你用这个片语 much less of something， 意思就是它跟以前来比其实不是这样了，已经不是这样了，所以说它是个神秘的东西其实也不算。火现在大家其实都了解，那他就说火它其实说起来它的来源，它的起始点要从很早很早以前就开始。以前祖先直立人他们能控制火，从这个证据就可以追溯到40万年前。好，这么遥远之前就开始有火的使用。那这一段当然就是要告诉大家火的起源，火大家发现的时间，还有它的重要性。那后面他又告诉我们说，其实就火来说，它不但只是改变我们居住的地点，我们的交际方式，火其实还确保了我们人类这种物种的存在。好，这一句话非常的长，在这里他就说到 change the locations we have inhabited， 换句话说，改变我们居住的地点，还有后面and the ways in which we have socialized。 好， the ways in which 这个其实它就等同于 how 一个字，你讲说我们怎么样交际的方法方式，如果你把这个 in which 改成 how， 换句话整句是 the ways how we have socialized， 意思是一样的。那我们就往下看， 到底火它有什么功能？第二段里面就说到，当然早先我们知道用火烹调，你可以把细菌杀死，那我们就不会生病。那还有一点，他提到了 starchy plants。所谓 starchy plants 就是淀粉类的植物，像是马铃薯，像是玉米，因为有火，那它就可以食用。那还有他还说到，火当然你可以把食物烘干储存起来，所以当你没办法狩猎或者是没办法采集食物的话，我们还有东西吃，这些其实都很重要。
We're going to take a quick break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back, guys. We're talking about the Discovery unit, and we're talking about the TLC show called Food Safari Fire. And we're talking about the importance of fire and the history of it. We have learned, or at least scientists have learned, that there was controlled use of fire way back by the Homo erectus, an ancestor of ours, back 400,000 years ago. So back then they had already discovered fire and kind of what they could use it for. Nowadays, we use fire to cook meat. They did as well, and it helped kill harmful bacteria that they didn't even know about, right? We've only discovered bacteria since, I think, microscopes were invented. So we've killed these harmful bacteria. And it also made some of the plants out there that we really enjoy today, those vegetables called potatoes and corn, really tasty now that we can actually heat them up and change the form.
We can have potatoes and corn. If we cook them, they are now edible. We can eat them. And furthermore, or in addition, also, fire allowed humans to dry and store food so it could be consumed at times when hunting and gathering wasn't feasible. So I guess that's all about storage. You could heat your food to dry it out to make beef jerky, for example, and save it. And you could eat it during the winter when you could not, raise food on farms and stuff like that. We're talking about hunting and gathering. That's what early humans did. That's how they got their food, to go out and kill other animals and to gather the food from plants and trees. Of course, that might be difficult to do during the winter. So you can use fire to dry the food out and then store it, and then you've got plenty to eat during the winter. If something is feasible, that means it is able to be done. It's possible to do it easily. It's possible to do it conveniently.
Yeah, which is always great. Now, throughout history, new technologies have refined our cooking techniques. So we've had more and more discoveries along the way. Even today, I'm watching cooking shows, and there are new machines that they use. Well, they've been continually refining cooking techniques over the years. If you refine something, you take something and make small changes so it becomes better and better and better and better. We also use refined to talk about taking impurities out, things that are harmful, unwanted things when we're processing something. But here, refining our cooking techniques means improving them little by little. And that's provided us with a lot of different ways to cook our food or prepare our food for eating.
Exactly. And so we've got TLC, this TV channel. Their new show, Food Safari Fire, is an exploration of this food revolution. Exploration is a noun here. We could talk about the exploration of outer space, for example. Are we going to travel to Mars? Are we going to send people there as part of space exploration? The verb form there is explore, to explore. So we're exploring this food revolution. Revolution just means a big change in something. It could be a political change like the American Revolution in the 1700s or the French Revolution, the Mexican Revolution, etc. But we've also got like the Industrial Revolution, which was a big change in industry and stuff like that. This is a revolution having to do with fire, how it changed survival and food preparation. And the host of the program is Maeve O'Meara. She joins some of Australia's premier chefs to learn how they they concoct amazing modern dishes with our most primitive cooking resources. So we've got premier chefs. Premier here just means the best chefs that there are. Premier, the most important thing, at least in a list of order. And they talk about how they concoct these modern dishes. Hey, we've got the word concoct here. That's not so common, but it talks about putting something together, make dishes or food by combining various ingredients and cooking them a special way.
Yeah, we also use concoct to talk about coming up with a scheme or a plan. It's kind of a fun word. I was thinking, Tom, as I was reading this morning, I think this is the first time we've used concoct since I've been here. It's a fun word, though, and we use it quite often. Concoct, to come up with some idea, plan, or, as Tom was saying, to put together different ingredients to come up with an amazing dish. And we're using some of our most primitive cooking resources on this show, at least. So they've got these great chefs, leading chefs in Australia. They're putting together modern dishes, but they're using very primitive cooking resources. They're not using their big pots and pans and microwave, although that's not a great way to cook. But they're not using some of those modern machines I've seen on cooking shows. We're using primitive cooking resources. If it's primitive, it goes way back to early history and when we were just developing something, but it's evolved or changed quite a bit since then.
Yeah, they probably had to cook things over an open fire, which you couldn't control very well.
No.
Nowadays, of course, we've got gas stoves and things that can control the flame and things like that.
Totally.
Well, let's talk about Maeve's first stop. She's going to Hobart, which is the capital of Tasmania. That's an island south of Australia. It's still part of Australian territory, but it's a separate island, Tasmania. She's meeting up with Rodney Dunn. He is the owner of the Agrarian Kitchen, a popular cooking school, I guess, there in Hobart there. She's meeting up with him. She's having a meeting with him. She's going to talk to him. And Rodney shows Maeve how to use just 2 metal stakes and some wire to roast pork, which has been rubbed in herbs, spices, and lemon rind. So we've got some pork here. That's the meat from a pig. And he's teaching her how to use just 2 metal stakes.
Wow.
A stake here is like a long piece of metal, right?
Yeah.
Usually sharp at one end. And also it's got some wire here. Wire is used to conduct electricity, and he's using it to roast pork. And that pork, of course, has got herbs, which are different kinds of spices and stuff like that. Plants and things like that. And lemon rind, which is what, the skin of a lemon?
Yeah, it's the peel. You know, if you eat an orange, you have to peel it first. That's the rind. And sometimes we take orange rind or lemon rind, the peel, and we grate it. We make it really small, and it adds a really nice flavor. It's not sweet, so don't put too much in.
I think there's some kind of Hakka sauce made from orange rind.
Yum.
If I'm not mistaken.
And they're using root vegetables. Root vegetables are vegetables that grow below the ground. You'll see the green tops, above the ground, but you have to actually pull it out, like carrots. That's a root vegetable. And they put them in damp calico. I haven't seen calico since I was maybe in my teens. Calico is a type of fabric. It's printed, and it feels more like cotton. It's kind of rough. I used calico to sew when I was a little girl, so it's fun to see this word. Damp means slightly wet, not completely wet, but it's got some moisture in it. And he wraps those root vegetables and then buries them beneath the coals. I've done this kind of cooking before. Have you done this before, Tom?
No,
Camping?
but I've tasted something that was cooked that way.
Good.
By a family of Mexicans living down in Texas. But in any case, yes, this is a way of cooking here. The root vegetables, of course, are wrapped in calico and then cooked beneath those coals, underneath the coals, for a special kind of flavor. And they're steamed to perfection when he removes them several hours later. So if you steam something, you cook it with the steam of water, like zhengjiao here in Taiwan. Steamed dumplings, they're cooked with the steam of boiling water. And this is what he does when he removes them from under the coals a couple of hours later.
And then he puts puts aioli on the top of some of these vegetables once he pulls them out of the fire, pulls them out of the coals. Aioli is kind of a mayonnaise that's seasoned with garlic. They use oil and garlic, and it's a nice sauce. It's pretty popular nowadays, so I'm not surprised that the chefs, these premier chefs, are using it. And they say this meal is a feast for royalty, or feast fit for royalty, good enough for royalty. And royalty, of course, refers to kings and queens and princesses and princes. So it sounds like it's pretty tasty. I think I'm hungry now. We're going to once again listen to our Chinese teacher, and then we'll be back to wrap up.
好，那接下来提到了食物，提到了火，这么样的重要，那我们就要谈谈真正的主题了。其实这个新节目它叫做火烤料理大冒险 Food Safari Fire。 好，听起来其实就很有趣。那这边他这个主持人呢，就要带领大家到哪里呢？到 Australia。 他其实是要把一些澳洲的厨师一起带来，然后呢，带大家去看看怎么用火来料理食物的。好，这边提到这里他带了一些澳洲的顶尖厨师。什么叫顶尖厨师？这个英文他用到了 premier chefs。 premier 当然这个字就代表高等的、最高级的、最重要的、最好的，所以他们就是所谓的顶尖厨师。好，我们来看看节目的内容会有什么呢？下一段就告诉你。第一站，他带大家到一个城市叫 Hobart， 到这里来，那他呢就要带领大家到一个厨艺学校里头。那这个厨艺学校主人他会告诉我们怎么样用火来烹调。那这里当然内容非常的有趣，不过有一点就是在它烹调完之后，最重要的就是那个食物啊。他说上面它的这个上面这个蔬菜拿出来之后，它上头会淋上蒜泥蛋黄酱 ，topped with aioli。这个的 topped 这是一个过去分词，而我们知道过去分词的来由都是因为这里的分词片语其实原来如果你把主词摆回来，然后会发现这个过去分词其实跟这个主词的关系是有被动关系的。那我们谈到了这道菜，说到这道菜就是后面的主词 this meal， 换句话说，本来前头是 this meal is topped with。好，当你这个 this meal 主词省略掉，然后你把它的动词部分只保留过去分词，这样就形成了一个分词片语。当然这当中有一个被动的含义在，所以才会看到 topped with 这样的形式。 OK， 我们今天的讲解就到这边结束，我们下次见。
That's it for today. Thank you for joining us, everybody. And please join us again next time because we're going to continue talking about playing with fire in our next program. We'll see you all then. From all of us here at English Digest, I'm Tom.
I'm Stephanie. Bye.
Goodbye.